Hey students, today we are going on lesson 4.3 and we're finding the area of trapezoids. Now we're going to approach this as a composite figure, and if you don't know what a composite figure, it means that the shape that you're looking at is made of more than one shape. So if you look at this trapezoid right here, you can see that if I was to draw a line right here and a line right here, that we have a rectangle and we have two triangles. So that's how we're going to approach finding the area of trapezoids today. Is we're going to approach it with the point of view that a trapezoid is made of triangles and rectangles, that we can find the area of each of those shapes and then we can add them together. Let's begin with your bell work today. So we're going to look at number 1, and it wants us to find the area of a parallelogram. And remember, we are using the steps that I pointed out to you last week before we went on fall break, is that we're going to use area equals base times height. So do I have the base? Yes, I do. Our base is 22, so we're going to go 22. Do we have the height? Now don't get mistaken. Remember, the height has to be straight up and down. So our height is 30. So we are looking at 22 times 30, and that'll give us the area. So again, you can use your calculator to do this. You can go 22 times 30, and you get 660. So our area equals 660, and again our units of measurement are millimeters, and we multiplied two different dimensions here, so that is why it's squared. Again, to get all of the credit for this question, you need to have this entire thing on your paper. That's how we answer geometry problems in my class, and I know that the other teachers have talked about the same thing. So make sure that you, step number 1, write out the formula. Step number 2, substitute the numbers that you know from the figure into the place for the variables, and then multiply and make sure that you write the units squared. All right, let's move on to number 2. Calculate the area of the triangle. All right, so here we go. We are going to use the formula area equals base times height divided by 2. So let's fill in what we know. We know the base is 2 1/3. So we have area equals 2 1/3 times 5, the height, divided by 2. Now I know that that looks really, really weird, but it isn't if you follow a couple of steps. First of all, you can use your calculator here, and this is what I would tell you to do, because again, we're dealing with this fraction right here, and your calculators don't deal well with fractions. So we're going to just change this fraction into a decimal. So we're going to go 1 divided by 3. So we get 0.3. It's a repeating decimal. So what we're really looking at is area equals 2.33. We're going to go out to 2 spots after the decimal times 5 divided by 2. So I'm going to use my calculator now and go 2.33 times 5, enter, divided by 2, and I get area equals 5.825, or if you wanted to round that, you could have put 5.83. Either one of those is correct. So our answer is that with feet squared. Again, to get full credit, you got to show the formula, you've got to show your plugging in of your answers, and you got to show the answer itself. Let's move on to number 3. Okay, so it's giving us some numbers, some negative numbers there. What is the opposite of negative 41? 41. And what's the absolute value of negative 41? The absolute value is 41. Again, opposite, 214. The absolute value is 214. The opposite is negative 156, and the absolute value is 156. Absolute value is always, well, for our purposes, we're going to say always positive because there are some circumstances where it isn't. But we'll talk about that when we get there. But it just means how far away is the number from 0. So asking yourself, how far away is negative 41 from 0? Well, it's 41 spaces away from 0. Same with that. And again, 156, how far away is 156 from 0? 156 spaces. All right. That should do it on your bell work for today. Let's move on. We have some notes that we're going to go over, and we're only going to do half of the notes, and then tomorrow we'll do the rest. So what I would like to specifically look at today is this. So it says how to decompose composite figures. Well, we're looking at trapezoids here, so that's why I just want to focus on the trapezoid. So to decompose the polygon into parallelograms, rectangles, squares, or triangles. Then separate the shapes, label side length. Then we are going to find the area of each shape. There are some typos in this, isn't there? Of label. So, sorry about the typos, but they're there. Add the areas together to find the total area of the composite shape. So, on this one, we are going, and like I talked about on the first slide today, that we are going to decompose this polygon. So we're going to go, you know what? There's 2 triangles and a rectangle. So the way that I like to approach these is when I'm dealing with more than one shape, I actually make a space to find the area for each one of these shapes. So I have triangle 1, triangle 2, and I have a rectangle. So I'm just going to abbreviate. It's just for my purposes of being able to see where I'm figuring this out. And now that I'm doing this, I think I want to make this a little bit more spread out. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I give myself more room. And, you know, as I watch students do things, I wish that students would actually, you know, give themselves some room on their paper to do things, because when you give yourself some room, you give yourself a space to get things done. And if you don't do that, you feel like you're confined and squished, and it makes it better if you have more room to work. So let's talk about this triangle 1, and I'm going to call this one triangle 1. Does it matter which one you call? No, you can choose whichever one you want to do. So how do I find the area of a triangle? Well, area equals base times height divided by 2. On this triangle, same thing. I'm going to be using area equals base times height divided by 2. And then for my rectangle, I'm going to go area equals base times height. Is it important to write those formulas down? Absolutely. You're going to want to do that. So again, keeping things organized, keeping things in such a way that you can see where you're doing your work to keep it organized is very, very important. So let's talk about this triangle 1 right here that I have my arrow pointing to. Do I have the base? Yeah, I do. So I can go area equals 5. Do I have the height? I do. Times 4 divided by 2. Well, 5 times 4 is 20, divided by 2 is 10. So I know I have 10 centimeters squared. So this guy right here is 10 centimeters squared. Okay? Now let's talk about the second triangle. Let's see here. I know that my height is 4, because I can see it right here, so this has to be 4. But I'm having a hard time deciding what this is saying right here. If this was 5, is this 8? I'm guessing it is. We're going to say that this is 8 right here. So our base is 8. So we're going to go area equals 8. Our height is 4 divided by 2. So 8 times 4 is 32, divided by 2 is 16. So area equals 16 centimeters squared. So there's the area for my second triangle. Now we got to find the area for the rectangle, and the rectangle is this inside part right here. Well, I know that it's 6 here, and I know it's 4 here, so I have my base, which is 6, so 6 times 4, that's my height, is 24 centimeters squared. Now, if I want the area of the entire shape, I'm going to add these 3 numbers together. So I'm going to take out the calculator to help me here, because since it's allowed, 10 plus 16 plus 24, and that gives me 50 centimeters squared. Simple as that. That's what today's lesson is all about, is being able to do this. Being able to split it into pieces, decompose the composite shape, and then find the area of each of the shapes and add them together. So, pretty simple. Let's see if we can do that on our practice. All right, so here is your practice. Let's take a look at number 1. Number 1, that's kind of a weird shape, but let's see. We have some graph paper to help us out there. Let's change my color to red for today. And I'm going to split this into 2 shapes. There, I did it. I split it into 2 shapes. So I'm going to be looking at this triangle right here. And I'm also going to be looking at this rectangle right here. So we have 2 shapes. And again, like I said on the notes, we are going to use some space. We're going to use some area here to write things down. I have a triangle. I have a rectangle. I am going to find the area of the triangle by using the formula area equals base times height divided by 2. And my rectangle, I'm going to find the area by going area equals base times height. So let's do the triangle first. So my base, well, we have to use our brains here a little bit and go, okay, it's 1 across. So my area, or my base of my triangle is 1. Now we need the height. So we're going to come here and go, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. So my height is 4. So now I can use my formula by going area equals 1 times 4 divided by 2. So what is 1 times 4? 4 divided by 2. Area equals 2. And we don't have a unit of measurement here. So when we don't have that, we just call it units squared. So my area equals 2 units squared. Now let's do the rectangle. Do I have a base? Well, let's see here. 1, 2. So my base is 2. And we already found the height because we did it right here. So it's 4. So we are going to go area equals 2 times 4. So my area equals 8 units squared. Now, the last part of this, we have to add those 2 shapes together, the area of both those shapes. So 8 plus 2, 10 units squared. There we go. Simple as that. Yes, this is time consuming. Yes, you have to do a couple of different things to find the answers, but it's not that bad if you just break it into steps. Break the shapes into pieces that you know and find the area. So there we go. There's a triangle there and a triangle there. And we need to find, we're going to use our space like we have been. We actually have 3 shapes here. Now, if you wanted to label them, here's another idea. You might like this idea better. I might go, you know what? I'm going to call this one A, this one B, and this one C. So you could do that if you wanted to and just go, you know what? I'm going to find A, B, and C. And then you can find the area of those. So let's do that. We are going to, A is a triangle. So we're going to be using base times height divided by 2. B is a rectangle, so we're going to be using area equals base times height. And C is also a triangle, so we're going to be using area equals base times height divided by 2. All right, time to go to work now. Okay, so A, we actually have to go up here and count. It's 1 across and 1, 2, 3. Wait, that's exactly the same as the last one. So 1 and 4. And while we're at it, let's just go and label all of the different pieces here. We know that this is 3. We know that's 4, and we know that's 1. And if you wanted to, you could call that 3 down at the bottom, 2. But no need, because if we have one, we have the other. So base, we're going to our A shape, and it's base times height. So 1 area equals 1 times 4 divided by 2. Well, that equals 2 units squared. So on this one, we have our base, which is 3. Our height, which is 4. Area equals 12 units squared. And C, it's exactly the same as the other one. We have 1 times 4 divided by 2. So my area equals 2 units squared. So now we have to add 2 plus 12 plus 2. So 16 units squared. Okay, so yeah, a little time consuming, but once you get the hang of it, not too bad. I am going to do one of these, and then I'm going to write, and then I want you to actually do some practice on here. So let's take a look at number 4. So right here, we are dealing with a trapezoid, and we have 2 triangles and a rectangle. So I'm just going to call this one, and see, I'm showing you different ways that you can label things, but labeling is just for you to be able to know what's going on. So I'm going to call this one T1. Then I have a triangle 2, and I have a rectangle. Okay, so let's space this out a little bit. That gives me some more room. So triangle 1, what do we know? We're going to be using area equals base times height divided by 2. This one we're going to be using area equals base times height divided by 2. And this one we're going to be using area equals base times height. Okay, triangle 1, what do we know? We know the base is 5. So area equals 5. My height is 25, I believe. And we're going to divide it by 2. Again, calculators come in handy on this lesson. So 5 times 25, then divided by 2, and we get 125. So we know that this is 125 meters squared. That's this triangle. Okay, triangle number 2 over here, we're going to go, okay, our base is 7.5. And our height. Now, we may have to use our brains here. It doesn't label what the height is here. But we can use this because this is the same as that. So this is also 25. So we have 7.5 times 25 divided by 2. Using the calculator, 7.5 times 25 divided by 2 gives me 93. So this guy over here is 93 and 75 hundredths meters squared. Okay, let's move on to this last shape, the rectangle. Our base is 50. Our height is 25. So 50 times 25. Again, the calculator, 50 times 25. We get 1,250, so area equals 1,250 meters squared. And that's this part right here, this rectangle. Now we need to add some things together. I'm going to identify the things that we're adding together. So we're going to go 125 plus 93 and 75 hundredths plus 1,250, and we get this number. And I'm going to write it really big right here. 1,468 and 75 hundredths meters squared. That right there is my answer. Yeah, A lot of steps involved in this, but I think that it's not that difficult once you get going. So I'm going to leave these other ones here as practice. If you need extra practice, here you can come here and do these. Since these are they take so much time, I don't want the video to be 40 minutes long. So we're going to just go from there. Let's take a look at your assignment really quick. All right, your assignment looks very similar to what the problem that we just did. So all of these shapes, guys, there's 2 triangles and a rectangle. Be very careful on this one because it gives you one of the triangles, but if you drew a straight line right here, remember that line, if you draw this line right here is equal to this line. So you can use that to your advantage a little bit. Now, again, if this whole thing is 6, right? And you just went like that, it's 6 on this top part right here, and it's 12 down here. Well, if I drew this would turn into a rectangle. It would be 6 from there to there. So this one would have to be 3, and this one would be 3 over here too. So make sure that you're paying close attention to that when you're doing things on this assignment. Good luck, and if you need any help, please see your teacher. We will be glad to help you.